All right, good morning, guys. So you know what? Let's grab it this way, shall we? How about that? Yeah, let's have it lock on me. You guys get to view my ugly mug for a minute. So here we go. We are installing the, in my case, a Switch Pro, but this is going to cover how to install all gang switches that are out there, because we're really just going to focus on where are you getting your power source from. From there, you need to follow your instruction manual. So this is going to be applicable to, in my case, a Switch Pro 9100, S-Pod, any of the aux beam, last fit, nylite, any of the ones that are out there. Your main thing that we're focusing on is where are we getting power. And as you can see, the main thing that we have with this Toyota engine is, guess what? There's no battery. You know why? Because the battery is located all the way in the back. And while we're back here, let's go ahead and show you that. Oops. There we go. Okay, so there we go. Now let's show you where the back is. Whoop. Suntan lotion. All right, guys. So if you've been following any of my other stuff, you know that I installed an air compressor, which is right there. Excuse me. So let's see here. Let me turn this off so I can control the... Dear gimbal, go away. All right, well, we'll just do this. Actually, let me turn this. Okay, there we go. All right, guys, sorry, I had to, still learning this camera. So my air compressor is in this business right here with Darth there. So that's the onboard air compressor. And then you can see I got a power distribution block. All of that is coming off of this guy though. And this is where your battery is actually located in the Land Cruiser. Yes, Toyota decided, let's put it in the back. That makes it a lot of fun when we're trying to sit here and figure out where to get our 12-volt power source, because traditionally when you're doing these, your battery is going to be right here. There's your positive, there's your negative. You just got to figure out your ignition switch. That ain't the case now. We actually have to go over there to over here, and then we get from here to there, and then we get our ignition. So everything still lines up. It's just the big mystery out there is, where do I get 12-volt constant? And that's what I'm here for. Okay guys, so let's kind of step through. So in this case, I'm using a Switch Pro, and the Switch Pro has to be mounted vertically. It can't be on its side. If you see like the wires here, they don't want it on its back so that water comes and can accumulate in the plugs. So you got to go vertical. So I went, and there's a bunch of spare holes right here. So if you can find a bracket like I did there that'll support it, great. Again, you know, the main thing that we're concentrating on is how do we get a gang switch wire. This is a Switch Pro, but the same methodology. It's going to go ahead and work for your aux beam, your last fit, your nylites, any of those ones that you find on Amazon. So this is a terminal block, which is what I use for the Switch Pro. Yours probably is already going to have this built into like a box here. But the main thing and the reason why you're here is you want to see where I'm getting my negative and positives from, because it's a hybrid and there's no battery in the engine bay. So there's a Switch Pro. There was my mounting location. Again, there's, you know, there's a bunch of holes here, here, here. We're getting the power from over there. And there's holes over there. So you have options. Choose wisely. So I'm going there. That's just my go-to. You know, the other thing to keep in mind, whatever system you're using, almost all of them require a connection to a ACC or ignition switch to go ahead and trigger, which is another reason why I went over here, because my fuses are here and we're going to do an add a circuit for that ACC ignition switch. that is required. We'll cover that with you guys because that's pretty universal. So it doesn't matter what system you have, you still need a dedicated ignition ACC to activate the unit so that it is not on and draining your battery when the car is off. So we're going to cover all that, but first let's figure out our power source, shall we? Okay, so one of our most vital connection points is obviously going to be our ground. And again, no battery. Where do we get that from, right? Right here. That's your best bet. So whatever your kit came with for a negative, back this bolt out. In this case, you can see I used a terminal fork. Ideally, you know, these are better. But I'm going to take mine and just slide it under the bolt here and then clamp it down, and that'll be the ground just for this control unit. My actual lighting and stuff, I'm going to run another one to a bus bar, so that I have a constant. But if you guys are looking for your ground source, and obviously there's no battery here, this works just fine. Your battery in the back is actually grounded already to the chassis of the car. So anywhere that you have a metal to metal contact will function as a ground. So just FYI. All right, guys, so we're about to get into this. Now, this is the important part, right? Doesn't matter what you're installing. This is going to be your power source. There is actually, from the battery in the back, there's a very thick wire that runs all the way from that battery to supply it here. So to open this, we're gonna pinch in here and here, pull up. It's gonna do that little pop, do this here and here. These are kind of a pain, you may have to go back, but I've done these quite a bit, so not that bad. But yeah, see, still giving me issues. All right, so here we go. This is what you're gonna need to take off first, and we're gonna need to get access really to this. This part is gonna come off next, and I'm gonna go ahead and reposition the camera so that you guys have a better view, because it's a little like funky. We have to like pull up and slide, and then that exposes this, and then we can go ahead and run our 12-volt power line all the way to the other side. And we're gonna go ahead though and follow this wire harness. So not that big of a deal, but we're gonna run it all the way over there. So fun times, but let's reposition the camera so that we have a better view of how we're going to release this to expose what we're gonna be clamping onto for the power supply on the gang switch that you're installing. So all right, let's pick that up. Let's reposition, pick that up. Okay, guys. So really quickly before we get into it, we have to remove this particular piece. And the way to do that is there's a clip here and you pull in. So get a hook tool or a small screwdriver. I'd recommend a hook tool. So we're gonna come in here, push in here, and then on this side, there's a clip right there that does the same. So we are going to go ahead and use our trusty little hook tool, and I'll flip the camera around now so you guys can see, but I wanted to give you that close-up so when I'm removing it, you're not going, where the heck is he doing this from? So it's here, it's here, and it's here, and then this piece slides up. So let's do that right now. Okay guys, now that I showed you where the tabs are, this one we're gonna push in. So push in, lift up. Oh, it came right out. So push in, lift up, yada yada. This is the piece that we're removing. There's that little tab. On that little tab, you actually need to pull in, so towards the front. So this one goes towards the passenger, this one goes towards the driver, and then it pulls right up. And now we have a better idea of what we're looking at here. So we have two tabs here, and it's really a question of, all right, which one are we gonna go for? And we are going to be using this one, which is near the cab, goes to the driver's side, and this one goes towards the headlights. So taking a look at this cover, the one thing that we're definitely going to have to do here is figure out how we are going to get the clearance, because these are made for this. So we're probably going to have to trim this with a Dremel just to make it work. So let me go get the Dremel and take a look at that. All right, guys, so we got our cover off. What we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to use this one, and this is the one that's closer to the headlights. All right, so I can tell you right now, if you guys are questioning this, there's a number of videos out there showing the dual air compressor being tied into this and being ran all the way over to the other side. I can tell you those air compressors, looking at the rating, are rated up to 90 amps. So if they're installing it on this and then you have your fuse with your circuit, you're going to be perfectly fine. Most of your aux beam, your nyllights, your last fit, any of that Amazon game switch is really only rated up to 60 concurrent amps. There's a few, I think last fit, and I think some of the newer aux beam will handle up to 80 amps of concurrent load. But in any event, both of those numbers are below the 90 amp that the ARB compressor goes off of. So you're perfectly fine here. What we're gonna go ahead and do, again, making sure that we disconnected in the back earlier, right? Because if this touches any of this that's already grounded, you're gonna have a little fireworks show, and you're gonna have a fireworks show on what looks to be some pretty vital and expensive equipment here for the hybrid. So let's not do that, okay? So righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, and we're going lefty-loosey, okay? So we got that taken care of, and we're gonna go ahead and loosen. I have my clip right here. I have the other ends not connected. Just dropped my hook tool, which is amazing because normally it's this guy that ends up in the engine bay, right guys? So anyways, we're gonna go ahead now and hook this guy up. Now I'm gonna follow this line that goes all the way to the other side. So I wanna run this now under, and I got my 10 mil. By the way, this is 6 gauge wire. All right, so we got that. This guy is gonna slide right there. Now, the fun thing is, I'm gonna need to crank him down because the other one's kind of in the way. So let's flip this over. The goal here is to get a nice, secure fit between the two, because you do have another connection that you're adding on top of this. So we're gonna go ahead, get that in like that. We have our 10 mil bolt. We're gonna bolt this back down. Just like that. And grab our wrench, socket, ratchet, excuse me, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. We're going righty-tighty now, clamp this down. Okay, so we got that taken care of. We have our power source, we have it going, set up to run along this wire, right? Because we're going to the other side. So we're gonna go ahead and tweak this down, because the next thing, guys, that we need to do is we now need to create some clearance. So I'm actually gonna take a Dremel here and cut this piece right here. So take your Dremel or your X-Acto knife, whatever you're gonna use to cut along this to here, because we need the clearance. So it's it, and that's that. So I'm gonna go cut this, and then we'll come right back. We'll put this back on, and we'll go over how we're gonna run it. All right, guys. So I deviated slightly, and I want to show you that really quick. Rather than go ahead, and this is the best way, rather than go ahead and cut with the Dremel kind of here and here, I just drilled a hole that the 6 gauge will go through. And I'm gonna use some RTV sealant, silicone clear sealant, or some Lexel. Thought I had some laying around. I'll show you guys that a little bit later. Again, with this wire, make sure you're disconnected in the rear, or this is live. And if this metal part touches anything in this engine that's metal, you're gonna get a fireworks show and probably need to change your shorts. So don't do that. And I made it sound a lot more dangerous than it is, but it will scare the crap out of you. It won't hurt you. So we went ahead, we got this through. We're going to continue feeding it. And we put it a little higher up. So I actually put it right in the middle where the 45 angle is, because we're going to follow this line. So we want it to have a somewhat direct path here. And then the next fun thing we got to do is manipulate this back into place. And the reason why we did a hole instead of just cutting it is this is designed to be a splash guard. So if water gets all up in here, it stops the water from going in here. You obviously eliminate that if you just make a hole. So just me being overly cautious. It is what it is. Could have made this hole maybe a little bit bigger. There we go. There we go. And there's little grooves in the side here, guys, that you gotta kind of pay attention to. Once you get it slid into position, you're fine, but it can get just a little tight. And all right, there we go. Let's go to the other side. All right, guys, so one of the things that we want to do here is really make a nice clean install. And we're going to be coming across this right here, this harness, from where our power source is to our Switch Pro unit, which is right there. So this part's optional. Again, I'm just doing it because I want a super clean install. And this just kind of aesthetically makes it look tidy. Supposedly it'll protect as well the engine. Not supposedly, it will, but I don't put too much stock into that. So I have here 3/8 plastic split wire loom. I need to figure out exactly how much I need. So running it to the box, up, over, and about there, and we're going to want to go just a little bit short, so we'll cut it right here like that. And then this wire loom does split, but it's not too bad, and it is pretty big, so we're just going to go ahead and run our loom. Normally I would just split it and run it right along the line, but I got you guys with me today, so we ain't gonna do that. There we go. It's being a little difficult. Let's see if we can't find the end, and there it is. End's right here. So if you guys get stuck in there, you can always just split it, find it, finish pulling it through like that, and you go through. You need to push it right back in. Nice, neat, clean, etc., etc. The other thing that I encourage you to do, now this is split, so obviously it's not watertight, but to prevent this from sliding around or anything like that, the easiest thing to do is grab yourself some electrical tape and just kind of just kind of wrap the end of your wires here and here. So not that big of a deal, but in any event, that makes it look, as you can see, much cleaner coming across. I mean, we'll zip tie it right here and here and here, And it's nice and clean now, so you can see that it's obviously darker than this, but once it gets washed, it's gonna blend right in. Nobody's really gonna catch up on it. So, but this is how you run your loom. So put your wire splitter on and then figure out what your path is. In this case, I'm actually going to go ahead and come up and over and around and about. But I am going to adhere to this wire loom right here, and I'm going to try to keep it on the back side, you know, as much as I can to keep it clean. So there's things that you need to be aware of. You know, the first is your oil is right here, so you don't want to get in the way, so you might want to go here, zip tie, and then here, zip tie. Actually, that oil cap is going to be an issue, so let's just completely address that. So there is the wire loom. We're going to come up on this side, and if you do this right, you're going to have some really good areas for your zip ties. And we're going to come up and under here like that, right along that bracket. Again, how you choose to do this is up to you. I'm going for as clean as possible. So I'm running it behind these brackets, and I'll zip tie to them because they're super convenient. And there we go, a little bit here, and just like that, that's how we're gonna run it. So grab your zip ties and just start zip tying these at critical. And by the time we're done, it's gonna look nice and OEM as if the factory put it there. All right, guys, so we are home stretch now. We got, can you see it? We've got our 12-volt wire coming through, and now what we're gonna do is, between duct tape and these, solve the world's problems. These are 8-inch zip ties, and I'm just going right next to the factory kind of clips. So we got one there that I'm going to, and we got one right here that I'm gonna go ahead and go to. And do yourself a favor, little pro tip. I call them mousy tails, whatever. Leave the excess up, so mousy tails up, because then you just come through with a pair of scissors and very easily clip and clip. So there we go. So we got 1 and 2, and then we have number 3 we're gonna go ahead and roll with. Now, I actually covered this up with electrical tape, just, I don't know, to help a little. But in any event, again, you know, our goal is we really wanna, as much as possible, blend in to the factory environment here. So that's why we're following this harness. That's why we're putting our zip ties where pre-existing clips for all of this is so that when we open this up, it's just nice and clean. And we have one more to go to right here. And then this guy, I'm gonna scroll down, sorry. All right, and then this guy is gonna clip in pretty much, yeah, right here. So we have one more that we need to do right there, and get our our big 8-inch zip tie, and put our last one right here near the base. And now the line looks nice and clean. And in fact, in our next shot, I'm going to show you guys kind of a close-up of, you know, what we're looking like here and how I ran this and blended it in so that it looks nice and clean and doesn't stand out. So we got all those in. We left our mousy tails up. So clip those, clip those. All right, let me grab the camera and then show you guys how we got this all set up. Okay, so just a quick overview of how we got everything done here. So we started out on passenger side with this fuse box, did this, pulled it, and then there's this guy, and there's 2 little clips in here that we pull, and then this slides up. We now have him, our 12 volt goes right to here. You can see some gooiness there. We drilled a hole and we dropped some sealant back on it so we can maintain the water tightness of this. And again, this is like water resistant, not waterproof, so don't submarine your stuff. And then from there, we went ahead and followed this, and here you go. You can see a little bit where it is, but we just followed that, and then we ran it all the way to our Switch Pro location, which is right there. Now, the last thing that we need to do is we need to go ahead and focus on where are we going to draw our main negative. And I showed you guys that for the Switch Pro, which I'm installing, it actually needs a separate lead, but that's not the same lead that you're going to use to hook all your lights up. That negative that we ran earlier is only for this unit. Now we need to connect a bus bar, and what we're going to do is I have a large gauge wire that's already looped. I'm going to go ahead and bolt it right there. I'm going to run it to a bus block right here, and then in the future when we're running our wiring, positive is on this side, negative is on this side, and it's nice and clean. I will show you guys this, because even if you're using your aux beam, last fit, nightlight, whatever, those do come actually with a thicker gauge wire, and your positive and your negatives are actually in the unit itself. That'll sit on top of this. You'll have a positive and a negative directly in that unit. So pull your negative from here. But I'll do that really quick, get this set up, and then bring you guys in. We'll wrap this video up. Okay guys, so the last thing we need to do is, second to last, we still need the ACC, but we need to get your main ground. Now in this case, I'm using a bus bar, which is this right here. I have one main that goes to this, so my lights can go right into this channel and go circuit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on the positive side, and then I can go wherever I want to from here. If you're doing aux beam, last fit, any of those, your positive and negative is actually inside the block, so you're fine. But we're gonna go back to this that we used earlier. Probably should have done this all at once. We're gonna go ahead and undo this. This is going to be our ground point for this, and again, we're using a 6 gauge wire, okay? So go ahead, take your 10 mil. We're gonna go off of this right here, since it's a ground point, and unscrew that really quick. And we got our bolt. Okay, now we have this one with this eyelet. So we're gonna put the bolt through the eyelet on the other ground that we connected earlier. We're gonna go ahead and slide it right there. So it's connected. Then we're gonna go ahead and run this right back. So the main thing that you really wanna be and pay attention to is, hold on here, there we go, had to get a bite. As you clamp this down, if you use the fork one, which again, I'm not a fan of, but it's what I happen to have, make sure that when you're tightening down, that you kind of hold this into place, because it's gonna wanna spit out. But if you just hold it, hand tighten down, grab your ratchet, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, and then put it over, and then just hold it right here. You're gonna get that nice ground. So, got your positive over there. We ran it across the engine bay, tied it in nice, zip tied it nice, followed that harness. You got your negatives right here. So I have the negative for my Switch Pro unit in and of itself. And then I have the large negative going to the bus bar here. Positive is on this side, which will be activated by the control. Negative is on this side. It doesn't activate by anything. You can put everything on one of these if you were silly enough, but spread the love. Last thing we need to do is get into the ACC, and we're gonna pick up from there. We're gonna use an ADA circuit or an ADA fuse or a jump fuse, whatever you wanna call it. I will post the link. but I'm gonna go ahead and grab that because now we need to hook up our ignition switch or our ACC. You guys running aux beam, last fit, all of those. I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, they actually do have an ignition or an ACC that is required. And what that does is when your car is actually turned on, it sends a small electrical signal letting this control unit know that it can power on and that it can send 12 volts to your lights. If you didn't have that, it will drain slowly over time because the unit would always be on even when the car is off. Even if you're not running any lights, you're still running some Bluetooth, micro LSDs, you may have a vampire drain. So this ACC is actually really important to make sure that you don't end up dead in a parking lot. Do not skip this step. You could get lazy and just be like, oh, I'm just gonna tie it to the positive and it'll be on all the time. Highly recommend you don't do that. That's how you end up needing a jump start. So I'm gonna go get the Adafuse and we are going to figure out which one in here, and I'm gonna cover that with you guys, which one in here we're gonna tap into, and then we're gonna run it back out. So we'll be right back. All right, guys, you have my view now. So here's the ADA circuit, right? It comes with a little crimper and then you crimp it on. That's from my Switch Pro. And it comes with fuses, which are right there. So these are 15 amp fuses. And then this goes into these. So what we want to do is we want to locate one of these fuses that only comes on when you actually are in accessory mode or ignition. And you want to try to match your fuses. So in this case, I had 15s. There's a number of these that are only going to activate, but for the sake of this video, I'm looking just nice and easy. So I'm looking at only the 15s. They are blue. There's a 15 right there, which is to, I believe, the horn. This is the guy that we're after here. This is the ECU. So we got our tool from the back of the map, which is right there. Grab this and we're gonna go ahead and pull it. So, all right, there we go. That's pulled out. And then what we're gonna do is plug this in. Now, I have my switch connected already to the control unit. That's how I'm gonna test it, right? So if I plug this in and this lights up, we got a problem because it means I'm on a 12 volt constant. We don't want that. We want a fuse that only comes on when when the key's basically in the ignition, if you will, or that it means to be. So we're gonna take this, push him up a little, jam him in there where his little 15 was. And again, when you're doing this, guys, you're still maintaining the original fuse, so don't worry, okay? This whole thing is, it's not like you're sharing the load, it is individual. So we pushed him in there. I have no lights here and I have no lights on the control unit. So let's go to our car. Okay, so now we're in the car. We got this, our key, push this twice, once to come on that, one to come on again, there we go. All right, so we're in accessory mode. It's yelling at me, it's not ready to drive. And now, hopefully, yep, there it is. So, we have a light there, and our control panel is lit up, which means this is now activated off of the ignition switch. And then as a final little test, let's go ahead and go back to the car and turn it off. And it may take a minute or two, depending on what you get in on. So we come back, and we still see the light, but if we wait a second, there was a relay click and it's off. All right, guys, so there we have it. You have your 12 volt power source from the passenger fuse box. Again, we undid all that business, sealed it back up, ran it across. We have our negative from this side. I'm using a Switch Pro, but what I just showed you is going to be applicable for your power sources for any of the gang switches that are out there. You have your 12 volt constant, which is over on the passenger fuse that we ran across. You have your negative, which I showed you right here. And then you have your ACC that we identified with the ATA circuit. So you're done. Everything from here is going to be basically, depending on your system, it's going to be wiring up positive to negative, and just deciding, you know, which circuit you want it on, you know, 1 through 8, 1 through 6, however many you got. Last little bit we're going to do obviously is go ahead, button this guy up. So we're good to go there. This guy, our control switch, we're gonna run through the firewall, which is back here, plug it on the other side, and then get him hooked up in there. So now for me going forward, any of my lights, like my bars, my ditch lights, I just take the positive on one side, the negative on the other, run across, it stays nice and clean. Your aux beam, your last fits, they have their own control box that'll go right onto the top, so you'll be fine there. Quick side note for some of you, especially if you're using aux beam or the like, is that they include a circuit breaker, so you'll need to go ahead and figure out for running across, and then I typically put mine right on the fuse box. So I'm already protected with the Switch Pro. It's a slightly different setup, a much more expensive setup. So I'm not gonna get into that with you guys, but follow the instructions. At the end of the day, the main thing to take away is where are you getting power from in this hybrid where there is no 12-volt battery, because traditionally this would be super simple, but it's a little unique. So we go through, button everything up, everything's nice and tight, and that's it, guys. So run your lights, you've got your power sources, get out there. Thanks for watching, make sure to subscribe.